Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, and everything in between. Now, of course, before we get started, hopefully you guys could go check out my Kickstarter for They Called Her the Dancer. It's about a young woman who's a dancer/assassin. And of course, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on this video to help grow the channel. Now let's jump in. I only had 7 books this week. Also, I should mention to leave your pick of the week in the comments, because at the end of the episode, we do the viewer's pick of the week. And again, this week was a very small week, I think, for a lot of people. There weren't any really huge books that came out, but let's see which good books came out. So, starting with number 7, which is a new Vault book. I haven't picked up much from Vault besides Finger Guns, and I only read the first issue of that one. And the book is Witchblood, issue 1. I'm a really big fan of this creative team. I enjoyed their Scout comic, Long Lost, I believe it was called. And I just really liked the vibe of that book, so I was looking forward to reading this one. But honestly, it just wasn't my thing. It was very... I know they described it as like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and American Gods. I don't really know much about American Gods besides it's a Neil Gaiman property and that there was a TV show. But I actually thought it had a vibe of, like I said, Quentin Tarantino. So I'm not a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, so maybe that's why I couldn't get into it. But also it involves Westerns and honestly a lot of genres going together and colliding together. We have witches, vampires, again, Westerns, and the language just didn't do it for me. There was no moment where I really felt attached to the characters. Definitely felt a little bit more of a worldly book, but the artwork was really good. I like the coloring for the book. Again, I like the style, just didn't really do it for me for this story, and I don't think I'll be getting the next issue for this one. So I'm giving that 2 stars, and that is number 7. Now moving on to number 6, which is X-Men issue, what are we up to? Issue 19. And this is the Children of the Vault issue. We are continuing this. And honestly, most of the issue is very rushed. It's literally showing a whole lifespan of the mutants that went into the Vault, which was Darwin, Cinch, and Wolverine, which is Laura Kinney. Not Logan. And we get to see their whole entire life, especially this love between Darwin and Laura. And we find out that Darwin's the only one who remembers everything from the Vault. And then we see Laura and Cinch come back and not remember anything. So it's like kind of this sad note where they kind of have to start their romance all over again, but it's already kind of a rushed romance because we didn't actually get to see it. We just saw montages of it. Overall, it was a nice story, but again, I feel like the only reason I enjoyed it was more because of the ending of the issue than the actual journey, because it was so rushed, the journey. And artwork was pretty solid for the book, but I don't know if it was really worth how many issues we had to wait for the conclusion of Children of the Vault. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 6. We're already at the top 5, and number 5 is Crossover issue 5, which has been a pretty solid series for me. I do feel like, even though there's a lot of action that happens, I do feel like the book's a little slow in the regard of progressing the plot, and I would say even progressing the character relationships, but this was a very action-y issue where we get to see a war has begun between the humans and the comic book characters. Some of the comic book characters escape. There's a lot of fighting. They end up using the God Country sword. So, like I said, very action-y issue. I think it's a very move point A to point B type issue, but overall I had a fun time with it. I like all the Easter eggs. I love the crazy idea of this book, but hopefully we dig a little deeper into the characters as we move along. So giving Crossover issue 5 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Return of the Valkyries, King in Black issue 4, which is the last issue of this mini-series, and I didn't like this volume as much as previous volumes. I love Jane Foster, so this one, it was a little crowded, because you're dealing with a big event, King in Black, which has been somewhat delayed, and feels like it's been going on for a long time, and then you also have all these other Valkyries, including introducing a new Valkyrie. The reason I like this issue, probably the most compared to maybe issue 1, because I liked issue 1, is because it focused on Jane again, focused on her relationships and her character arc, where we get to see what it actually means to die and the deeper meaning of it. And I really enjoyed Jane's comparison of losing her son. We actually get to see her son, and, you know, death being, of course, the loss of a soul and the soul's journey, but then also the people that stay behind and what they remember of that person. And once they forget or whatever, once they die, what is the true death of a person? So I thought that was really interesting in how it related to King in Black and helped other characters, even the new Valkyrie as well. And I thought this was a better character issue than we've gotten in issue 2 and 3. So overall, I enjoyed it, but I'm much more excited for the next volume. The artwork looks so good. I love Mattia's artwork, so I'm so excited for that. And then also just focusing on 2 Valkyries instead of a whole King in Black event and so many other characters as well, which is honestly the downside of this issue. It felt very crowded. And then also, I don't think the artwork has been as strong as, let's say, Cafu or Mattia's artwork that we have seen from this series. So I'm giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Silk, issue 1. And this is a mini-series. I believe this is actually supposed to be an ongoing series, and then COVID happened. It got really, really delayed. This book was supposed to come out like a year ago, and now it's a mini-series. And overall, it was okay. I like Cindy Moon a lot as a character, and I'm obviously going to pick up the rest of the mini-series, but there wasn't anything truly memorable here. It's just Cindy starting a new job. It's, you know, kind of like the Daily Bugle. It's J. Jonah Jameson's new company with Winters, and then Jameson is being targeted. The one thing I really enjoyed for previous stories has been JJ and Cindy's relationship, just because he actually like wants to put her under his wing and teach her how to be a journalist. And I like seeing her more as a journalist and not connecting to her superhero life. But overall, the main plot, I don't know if it's as memorable. And the artwork is solid for this book. I really like the artist. He's done other spider characters and similar... because I don't want to say this is a YA comic, but it kind of feels like a YA comic, especially because the writer writes YA prose, because I was going to say, oh, you know, the artist has done Miss Marvel and stuff like that, which is more YA. But I like that this is actually also exploring like a 20-year-old, and we don't really get to see that as often. I like the younger 20-year-olds exploring their life, so that was nice. But yeah, overall, I give this 3.5 stars. Definitely going to pick up the next issue, but it wasn't something that wowed me. So that was number 3. Moving on to number 2, a book I kind of got on whim because it was just such a small week and I wasn't getting any DC comics. So I'm like, all right, I'll try this out. And that's The Flash issue 768. This is a new direction, new creative team. And Wally West is the lead of this book. I'm like, okay, let's see where this is going to go. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of great beats in this issue where Wally wants to quit being the Flash and not have his powers anymore. He has one last hurrah with Barry, and he gets lost in this kind of time warp. And I thought it was a really fun adventure. Wally had some really good one-liners here, which I've kind of missed from him. But also, it doesn't forget what has happened with Wally, especially with Green Arrow's comments about Roy, and then even just seeing him interact with his family again. So I enjoyed this one, and I thought it did a really good job at the connection between Barry and Wally, and it was just a really good setup to a hopefully really good new chapter for The Flash, and definitely gave me enough to want to pick up the next issue and maybe jump on board to the Flash series again. It's been a while since I've had it on my pull list. Also, the artwork was pretty solid. I enjoyed it. The colors maybe were a little darker than I expected. Maybe there's some facial expressions that could have been a little better, but overall I like the style a lot, and I hope it stays consistent for the next couple issues as well. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to my pick of the week, which is Shadecraft issue 1 by Image Comics. And I have to say this is the one I was most looking forward to for the week as well. And it didn't disappoint. It's about this young girl who has shadows following her, and she tries to tell her only 2 friends. One that she kisses, not by accident, but missed the cues of what was actually going on. And then the other friend who's like, hey, like, I know a lot's going on in your life, but this kind of sounds crazy. So it's not like any other superhero story where the best friend's like, okay, yeah, let's figure this out. Let's see what these shadows are about. They're like, yeah, I think you have a problem. So she's trying to figure this all out, and, you know, she's an outcast from her school and even her friends, and her brother is actually in a coma, and he used to be the popular kid, and she was always living in the shadow of him. And then the big cliffhanger is this shadow, or at least one of the shadow creatures, is actually her brother, and I'm guessing the story is going to be a relationship between brother and sister. Overall, really liked it. I thought the artwork was super solid, really fit the teenage story it was going for. I love the way the book played with shadows, even though this is a relatively brighter book from the colors. And like I said, the story was really good, and you got straight into who this character is, and you wanted to follow her journey. I will say I'm a little worried about the plot, like how far can this go? But I hope we get to see some of these secondary characters take part in her life, and again, what direction it's gonna take, because honestly, I don't know from the first issue, but I feel like that's gonna be the ride. That's gonna be the fun aspect of it all, because it really could go in so many different directions with this whole brother thing, and us not really knowing much about these shadows yet. But overall, I thought it was a really solid beginning, and I'm definitely gonna pick up issue 2 for this. But let me know in the comments below what was your pick of the week. And of course, we are going into the viewer's pick of the week from last week, which was Ha Ha issue 3. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her a Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. Thanks, guys. Bye.